Part 21. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 203. Without water, she was like a weaponless person, and her fighting power was about the same as that of an ordinary skeleton soldier. Wang Shuo took out the flaming spear and stabbed her chest. Iron chain binding, flame breath, dragon strike. 3 skills were activated at the same time. Although Xiaoqi tried her best to dodge, she was still fixed in her body. The flaming spear pierced her left waist, taking away thousands of her health points. Then Ayub and Gong Zheng joined in, each with a set of skills, and Xiaoqi was directly half-blooded. Gilaji and Li Jiangguo also rushed over, but there were people who were faster than them. Yeshuer also drew out her long sword and attacked Xiaoqi crazily, more fiercely than Wang Shuo. Wang Shuo turned his head and looked. Yeshuer's clothes had been dried, and her hair was no longer wet. A butterfly-shaped hairpin was inserted into the bun, and there were a few strands of hair flying on her chest and back, looking bright and beautiful. A few more swords. Xiaoqi was chopped into pieces by the angry crowd. Seeing that there was an incomplete report among the items that exploded, Wang Shuo picked it up without hesitation. Obtain the incomplete report, v. The side quest is 45% complete. The animation unfolds. Within the jurisdiction of Black Dragon City, a large number of villages and towns were attacked by countless undead armies. The screen quickly switched between towns and villages. Smoke rose everywhere, the war continued, the people cried and ran, and the soldiers shed blood on the battlefield. Countless altars were surrounded by death, and a steady stream of skeleton soldiers walked out of the altars. Immediately afterwards, Black Dragon City sent millions of troops to various battlefields. Although the army of Black Dragon City fought bravely, it could not withstand the undead army. There were too many of them, and the number was increasing. Some soldiers who had been fighting against the undead for a long time were also attacked by the death energy. At first, there was nothing, but as time went on, they also began to transform into undead. As a result, the number of human soldiers began to decrease sharply, and people had to be sent to take care of the undead soldiers. The Black Dragon City army was defeated. The scene ended. It seems that the undead army has become a force to be reckoned with. If heavy troops were sent to suppress it at the beginning, how could it be like this? Wang Shuo was a little distressed. But on the other hand, who could have predicted it? It's like a grocery store opened in the next village. How could those big tycoons spend all their money to destroy a small grocery store? It can only be said that everything has its own destiny. Wang Shuo looked at Yeshuer and asked awkwardly, "Why don't you pick it first?" After the danger was temporarily lifted, the two felt a little embarrassed again. After a brief hesitation, Yeshuer picked up a piece of equipment that fell. Wang Shuo picked up a scroll, Occupation Forgotten Scroll. Occupation Forgotten Scroll, after using it, you can forget the chosen profession and relearn a new profession. This scroll is a second chance for those who want to change their profession. Wang Shuo looked at the remaining energy crystals and soul crystals, and said to Yeshuer, "Put these away too." After saying that, Wang Shuo turned and left. Yeshuer blushed, and without refusing, she put away all the items. Locke and the other two were envious of Yeshuer's harvest. They all regretted not flying over and stabbing twice, so that they would have a reason to share the spoils. When they came to the shore, Wang Shuo looked at the map and determined the next place to explore, the Research Institute. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 204. The Research Institute is located in the southeast of the back garden. After walking for a while, an attic appeared in front of him. But Wang Shuo was immediately dumbfounded. There was only a piece of broken tiles and ruins in front of him. This is the only destroyed building in the Dragon King's underground palace. You did it, Wang Shuo frowned at the yellow-haired Locke. Locke immediately shook his head. Wang Shuo checked the map again, showing that there was a small red dot in this place. Could there be another underground palace? Wang Shuo asked his soldiers to clean up the rubble and rotten wood on the surface, and finally revealed an underground passage. Sure enough, it was as Wang Shuo expected. Entering the passage, it was pitch black. After everyone lit torches, they could see the situation inside clearly. There was a lot of silt and sewage in the passage, but it was not deep, only less than 10 centimeters. Gong Zheng was still walking in the front. After a few steps, dozens of crossbows were shot from the stone walls on both sides. Gong Zheng was tough and thick-skinned, so although he was hit by an arrow, it was not a big deal. Everyone be careful, there are traps inside. Wang Shuo carefully checked the map again and found that the various traps were clearly marked on the map. This was only displayed on the map after entering the passage. Wang Shuo let out a long breath and secretly thought that he was lucky. With the markings, there is no need to be afraid of the various hidden traps. After experiencing traps such as arrows, rolling stones, fire attacks, dungeons, etc., Wang Shuo and his group finally came to a hall. It was filled with various shelves and workbenches. On the shelves, there were various bottles and jars, which contained some transparent liquids and some animal and plant specimens. On the workbench, there was also a skeleton frame made of animal and human bones. The shape was strange and weird, and it was scary to look at. Next to the workbench, there was also a skeleton boss. His shape was also very strange, and his two arms were actually mechanical arms, not ordinary bones. He was wearing a soft leather coat with silver glitter and a pair of glasses on his head. It can be seen that the person in front of him should be a researcher. "Are you here to deliver the test product?" the skeleton boss laughed strangely. "Drjia, Silver Boss. Level 40. Attack, 700. Defense, 500. Health, 5500. Note, the director of the Black Dragon City Research Institute, a weird researcher with a strange personality. He has extensive experience in mechanical life transformation, biomedical research, and other fields, and is a genius researcher. Wang Shuo did not dare to underestimate this Drjia. His attack and defense are ridiculously high. It must be not simple at all. Drjia did not look back, but looked at the skeleton he had spliced together on the workbench with great concentration, as if he was lost in thought. What a workaholic! Wang Shuo wanted to give him a model worker medal. After waiting for a long time, Drjia was a little impatient and looked back at Wang Shuo and others. "So you are illegal intruders," his tone changed grimly. "You dare to break into my workplace, you are simply courting death." He waved his arm, and a rope shot out from the mechanical arm at an incredibly fast speed. It directly tied up Yeshwe and pulled her over. This incident happened in the blink of an eye, and no one had reacted yet. He is really a ruthless man who doesn't talk much. Until Yeshwe was pulled a few meters away, Wang Shuo reacted, rushed up and grabbed Yeshwe's hand. Others also reacted, and Ying Huagozi used the samurai sword in her hand to cut the rope. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 205. G. Drjia laughed strangely from his leaky mouth. Suddenly, a large number of mechanical puppets rushed out from several passages in this laboratory. Some were humanoid and some were beastoid, and they quickly surrounded Wang Shuo and others. "Are you competing for more people? Then let you test whether these test products are useful or not." Wang Shuo took a look and found that these mechanical puppets were between level 20 and 30, but their durability was ridiculously high, about 10,000. At the same time, their defense was also good, especially those that exuded a metallic luster, which had a defense of an astonishing 250, which was higher than Wang Shuo's defense. Suddenly, the melee mode was turned on. There were about 20 puppets. Ordinary soldiers could barely deal with one with a few people. Wang Shuo held a spear in his hand and picked a crocodile puppet. He had a deep affection for animals like crocodiles, even if the other party was just a puppet. But today was different. Wang Shuo took a step forward and stabbed the crocodile's head with his spear. Wang Shuo's current strength attribute, including the additional attributes of the equipment and the 20% bonus of the general, has reached 135 points, which gave him great confidence. With one move, the spear sank into the mouth of the crocodile puppet and swallowed half of the spear body. Another 3 combo skill. Fire began to emerge in the crocodile's stomach. Although the crocodile puppet has a high surface defense, its mouth and stomach are full of power devices, and its defense is basically zero. The internal structure is destroyed, and no matter how hard the shell is, it is no longer effective. The durability has dropped all the way from 9,000. When the imprisonment skill ends, the durability is directly reset to 0. In just a few breaths, Wang Shuo has dealt with the puppet. Wang Shuo looked up. Gongzheng directly turned into a giant and pressed a 3-meter-tall gorilla puppet to the ground and beat it wildly. A mighty King Kong was now pressed to the ground by him and rubbed hard. And Ayub was also attacking a humanoid puppet crazily. The biggest problem with these puppets is that they are not as fast as everyone else. It's not that these puppets are slow, but the agility of Wang Shuo and others is too high at this level. At the same time, Locke, Shilisha, and others can only be said to have the upper hand. Wang Shuo's eyes keenly discovered Yeshue. She was fighting a wolf-shaped puppet on equal terms. She was holding a long sword, and a faint milky white light was emitted from the sword. The long sword cut across and blocked the bite of the puppet wolf, but the long sword was also bitten by the wolf. She slapped her left hand, bringing out a palm wind, hitting the wolf's head, pushing the puppet wolf back 2 steps, and the long sword broke free from the wolf's mouth. Wang Shuo was stunned. This was a fighting method he had never seen before. The main thing was, what exactly was the milky white light on the sword? Could it be some kind of talisman? Like the one used by Wang Yanbing? Before he could think about it, Wang Shuo was entangled by another puppet and had to fight seriously. After more than 10 minutes, all the puppets had been destroyed. Many people were injured, especially ordinary soldiers. Wang Shuo ordered his soldiers to retreat outside the battlefield and attack Diarjia. Ordinary soldiers were no longer useful. Because their attacks could not break Diarjia's 500-point defense. Even Wang Shuo could not break the defense with ordinary attacks. Fortunately, Diarjia's health points were not too high. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 206. How are you? Wang Shuo looked at Ayub and Gongzheng again. Ayub stood between Diarjia and Wang Shuo and said in a deep voice, nothing serious. As for Gongzheng, he used his protective shield to knock down more than 10 steel needles without any damage. As long as his 2 generals were fine, the battle could continue. Soon, the bronze spear was reloaded again. The 3 of them interfered with Diarjia again. At this time, Diarjia's mechanical arm was transformed into a drill, and the high-speed rotating drill wanted to break Gongzheng's shield. Wang Shuo found the right time again and launched the iron chain binding skill. This time Diarjia was prepared and almost failed, but iron chain binding was a directional skill and there was almost no possibility of dodging. But this time he broke free from the chain faster than the first time. Before Wang Shuo could call Li Jiangguo, the bronze spear pierced Diarjia's left shoulder again and nailed him to the wall. And his health value had dropped by more than half. Those who still had the energy to fight again also seized the opportunity and rushed up to attack. When Diarjia broke free from the spear again, everyone began to dodge. This cycle continued until Diarjia's health reached the bottom, and Wang Shuo found the right time to restrain him. The last bronze spear killed him. Your subordinate Li Jiangguo killed the silver boss D'Archia. After a difficult battle, everyone finally got a good reward. The boss exploded. Several items exploded on the spot. Shilisha, Locke, and Yinghua Guzi, their eyes glowed, and they flew over to grab them regardless of their injuries. Only Yeshue was tempted, but did not take action. Wang Shuo was furious when he saw this. He was hit by the boss's punch just now, and his health was lost by half, and he was seriously injured. And Ayub and Gongzheng were also in poor condition. That's why these three people were blinded by greed. As the saying goes, people die for money, and birds die for food. They didn't get any benefit from the last boss, so they couldn't let Wang Shuo distribute it this time. Wang Shuo snorted coldly, and murderous intent flashed in his eyes. If you dare to snatch the spoils, you will be killed without mercy. Wang Shuo said directly to his troops. Block all exits. The remaining soldiers were divided into 3 teams and quickly went to the remaining 3 exits. Li Jiangguo directly changed to black iron spears and aimed at Locke and the other 2. Gongzheng and Ayub were also very close to the spoils, but they were half a beat slower than the other 3. They picked up the spoils while getting into a melee. Wang Shuo directly took out a bottle of life potion mixed with water of life and drank a sip. His health value recovered rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. He rushed over quickly with his spear dancing. The closest to him was the yellow-haired Locke. Wang Shuo watched him put a blueprint into his backpack. Wang Shuo valued this kind of thing the most and directly launched the iron chain binding. These 3 people were simply blinded by greed and didn't consider whether they could rob Wang Shuo and others. The spear stabbed straight to Locke's abdomen. Locke raised his shield to block, and at the same time, the spear in his hand began to counter-attack and stabbed Wang Shuo's face. Gongzheng's opponent was Shilisha. After receiving Wang Shuo's order, Gongzheng directly used a move Taishan Pressure. This is a skill that Gongzheng learned after killing Toad Brunei. Taishan Pressure, consume 100 points of mental power, suddenly jump into the air, and perform shield strikes on targets within 50 meters, causing 5% of the target's own health value damage, additional stun for 2 seconds, skill CD, 10 minutes. The reason why it was not used on the boss just now was that Gongzheng was able to withstand the opponent's damage on the one hand, and on the other hand, Wang Shuo did it intentionally, and he had to keep some trump cards. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 207. Shilisha was stunned immediately and stood there in a daze. And the Sakura Goza that Ayub was dealing with was very good at ninjutsu. With her agility as the main skill, she repeatedly dodged Ayub's powerful attacks, and she seemed to be quite capable, and occasionally she could even fight back with a knife. Like Wang Shuo, Ayub mainly added strength and physique, and his agility was not low. But he was still not as good as this kind of warrior who mainly added agility. But as long as Ayub seized the opportunity, Sakura Goza would have no chance. Swoosh, swoosh. The sound of 5 black iron spears breaking through the air sounded. The 2 people under control were directly pierced by the spears, and like D'Argio before, they were hung on the wall. And Sakura Goza dodged this attack sharply, which made Wang Shuo look at her with new eyes. Put down the things you just picked up, and I can spare your life. Wang Shuo looked at Sakura Goza coldly, his eyes narrowed slightly, and a hint of fierceness appeared in his eyes. Yinghua Goza didn't care and smiled at Wang Shuo. Do you think you can catch me? As she spoke, her figure gradually faded and disappeared strangely. Wang Shuo was slightly startled. A living person just disappeared like this. What kind of strange trick was it? In desperation, Wang Shuo could only tell his subordinates to guard the exit first. In case the other party was still at the scene, there was still a chance to recover the spoils she picked up. Abu, can you see clearly what she picked up? "My lord, a sword, and a soft armor." Wang Shuo turned around without comment and asked people to tie up Locke and Shilasha, who were nailed to the wall. He walked slowly to Yeshua's side and handed her a bottle of life potion. His expression slowed down and said, "What do these two people have to do with you?" Yeshua hesitated for a moment, but still took the life potion handed to her by Wang Shuo, but did not take it. He shook his head gently and whispered, "It's nothing. We just met in the dungeon." Wang Shuo breathed a sigh of relief, walked to Locke and the other man, and said sternly, "You two, hand over your things." "Humph, forget it." Locke spat out a mouthful of blood and tilted his head to look to the side. And Shilasha was silent. Gongzheng and Ayub handed the spoils they picked up to Wang Shuo. Among them was the fragments of the report, which made Wang Shuo breathe a sigh of relief. Battery blueprint add 1, Dead Spirit Orb production blueprint add 1, Intermediate Arrow Tower construction blueprint add 1. Obtain the incomplete report. 6, the side quest completion progress 55%. The animation unfolded in front of Wang Shuo. The cities near Black Dragon City continued to fall, and in the military camp, some soldiers began to be invaded by the dead air, and some soldiers even turned into undead without going through the transformation of the altar. This change shocked the top leaders of Black Dragon City. Afterwards, some of the captured undead skeletons and strange beasts were sent to the Research Institute. D'Argio personally led a group of researchers to start continuous research. They dissected corpses, analyzed the skeletons of the undead with various instruments, and even used humans for experiments. After half a month of research, there was still no improvement. D'Argio's handsome face aged rapidly in the day and night research. After countless repeated experiments, D'Argio finally discovered a formation similar to the spirit gathering formation that can gather dead air. They called this improved formation Gathering Dead Spirit Formation. This discovery shocked everyone. After countless attempts, they found that the Gathering Dead Spirit Formation could be engraved on a special kind of dark wood to make a dead spirit bead. Soldiers wearing it can use this bead to absorb the dead air on their bodies, so as to avoid being invaded by the dead air and being transformed into undead. When the Black Dragon King learned that D'Argio had researched the dead spirit bead, he was overjoyed and immediately ordered people to manufacture it in large quantities. The military workshop produced the dead spirit beads day and night to equip the soldiers of Black Dragon City. Although the dead spirit beads had initially eased the war, the army of Black Dragon City was still losing ground. The two sides fought a decisive battle on an ancient battlefield, the ancient battlefield. In this battle, the Black Dragon City army was defeated. The important reason for the defeat was that this kind of dead spirit bead had a huge disadvantage, that is, it could not absorb the dead air infinitely. When the internal space capacity was full, it could no longer absorb. After a period of research at the Research Institute, D'Argio discovered that the water of life could purify the dead air. But outside Black Dragon City, there were already overwhelming undead spirits, and Black Dragon City was powerless to save the situation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 208. The moment Black Dragon City was breached, the scene ended. Wang Shuo immediately took out the production drawings of the dead spirit orb. He found that the production process above was not very complicated, but he needed to learn to draw a formation. With the foundation of drawing defensive runes before, Wang Shuo could barely understand the structure of the formation. Wang Shuo took a simple look and put it away. As for the battering ram drawings and arrow tower drawings, they were even better things, which made Wang Shuo quite like them. Wang Shuo gave the energy crystal and soul crystal on the ground to Yeshua, which was regarded as the spoils she distributed this time. These drawings were too important to Wang Shuo, so he did not plan to share them with others. Search carefully and don't leave any corner behind, Wang Shuo ordered his soldiers. Gong Zheng and Ayub immediately took action. One was to search for the traces of Yinghua Guzi, and the other was to see if there was anything valuable in this laboratory. After a while, Ayub found 100 units of dark wood in a storage room next to the laboratory, which seemed to be used for experiments. Wang Shuo was delighted. In this way, he could make dead spirit beads in the future. And hundreds of finished dead spirit beads were also found. Apart from that, there was nothing else of value. A laboratory, with only these things. Wang Shuo could only attribute the reason to Lord Zak. After taking a last look at the laboratory, Wang Shuo walked to Yeshwei'er. Let's go, we'll get out first. Wang Shuo helped Yeshwei'er up and walked out of the underground laboratory. Ayub followed Wang Shuo with half of the soldiers, and the remaining half followed Gong Zheng and did not leave. Yeshwei'er, who walked into the passage, vaguely heard Locke's screams. Back on the ground, Wang Shuo felt a little regretful that Yinghua Guzi had escaped. When they came to the altar, everyone began to rest. Everyone rest on the spot, take out dry food, and replenish your physical strength, Wang Shuo said to the soldiers. The soldiers who had meditated here before had little dead energy left on their bodies. Wang Shuo guessed that this altar should also have drawn a dead spirit gathering array, so it could absorb dead energy. Wang Shuo distributed the dead spirit beads to all the soldiers, so that they would not have to be afraid of dead energy for the time being. Wang Shuo handed Yeshwei'er a dead spirit bead. The two found a clean stone and sat down. Then, Wang Shuo took out some food and gave some to Yeshwei'er. Seeing Wang Shuo eating jerky, Yeshwei'er also put down her guard and ate a few bites. Wang Shuo glanced carefully and saw Yeshwei'er eating her jerky, and smiled, but quickly restrained it. The two ate in silence, and the atmosphere was very peaceful. There were gusts of cold wind around, and a faint dead energy drifted towards the altar behind them. In the sky, it was gloomy and dark, as if a storm was brewing. But Wang Shuo didn't pay attention to these. At this moment, his heart was beating like a deer, wanting to say something, but he didn't know what to say. After a long time, he felt a little embarrassed. Wang Shuo was a little dry in the mouth. He took out a bottle of fruit wine, took a sip, mustered up the courage, looked at Yeshwei'er and asked, "What's your name?" Wang Shuo regretted it after asking. They have been fighting monsters together for so long, and they have already checked each other's information. How could they not know each other's name? "My name is Yeshwei'er, what about you?" A pleasant voice came to Wang Shuo's ears, like the sound of nature. The two of them glanced at each other slightly, and found that the other was looking at them. Their faces flushed, and they quickly turned their heads and counted the ants that might be on the ground. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 209. Although his face was red to his ears, Wang Shuo felt very comfortable and didn't feel embarrassed at once. "My name is Wang Shuo, from Wana village, you." Wang Shuo wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Gong Zheng, who walked out of the passage. "Lord." A rough voice interrupted the peaceful atmosphere. Wang Shuo felt unhappy, but business was important. Standing up, Wang Shuo walked forward more than 10 steps and came to a corner of a dead flower bed. "Have you done everything?" Wang Shuo asked in a low voice. "This is what was searched from the two people, and the people have been dealt with," Gong Zheng also said in a low voice, and made a gesture of wiping his neck. Wang Shuo didn't know why the two of them were sneaking around at this time. Nodding, Wang Shuo took over 6 backpacks. Each backpack, that is, a storage bag, is only the size of a palm. Counted the supplies inside. Cloud ladder blueprint add 1, cloud stepping boots add 1, blood recovering pill formula add 1. There is a brocade box. After Wang Shuo opened it, there were 8 Earth Emperor fruits inside. There are also some other items, which are not very valuable. Cloud stepping boots, gold equipment, agility add 20, movement speed add 20%, durability 200/200. I don't know if this pair of shoes was dropped by D'Arcia. Wang Shuo looked at the crocodile leather boots on his feet and felt a little disgusted. After putting on the new shoes, Wang Shuo felt that he could walk briskly. Let's go, rest for a while and replenish some energy. Wang Shuo patted Gong Zheng on the shoulder with a smile on his face, and gave Gong Zheng an Earth Emperor fruit by the way. Wang Shuo returned to the altar and did not go to talk to Yeshue again, but concentrated on studying his side quests and the map of the Dragon King's underground palace. It was found that only this altar had not been explored. This made Wang Shuo feel a little uneasy, because the completion rate of the side quest was only 55%. Wang Shuo frowned, and now he could only bite the bullet and explore the altar. He looked at the time. It was already past 7 p.m., but there were still a few hours before dark. Earlier, Shilasha said that the nights here were very short, and it would be dark around 11 o'clock. Wang Shuo immediately gathered everyone and planned to step onto the altar. Everyone was full and their health and physical strength had recovered to their peak. Wang Shuo stepped into the light circle and felt a chill all over his body. He walked forward a few meters and stepped onto the altar. The soul-devouring and bone-destroying ghost howling sounded like crying and complaining, which made Wang Shuo tremble in his heart. Standing outside the altar, he could not see the situation inside the altar at all. At this time, Wang Shuo saw the scene in front of him clearly. In the middle of the altar with a radius of about 100 meters, a man was tied in the middle by dozens of black chains, and the ends of the chains were buried around the altar. The man wore a crown, looked haggard, his eyes were empty and his gaze was distracted. Seeing someone step into the altar, he remained motionless, like a wooden sculpture. Wang Shuo took a closer look and was horrified. This man. If this man is not the Black Dragon King, who else could it be? He vaguely remembered that in the first scene animation, the man with sharp eyes and extraordinary heroic spirit exuded an invincible domineering aura. And in front of him was just a destitute old man with a dead heart and dying old age. He was surrounded by a strong and insoluble death aura. Strangely, above the neck, he was not invaded by the death aura. Black Dragon King, Wang Shuo took a step forward with courage and called softly. Wang Shuo didn't know what to do at this time. Talk to him first to see if it would trigger any new effects. The Black Dragon King did not respond. Wang Shuo called a few more times. After a while, the Black Dragon King's eyes gradually became clear. It was as if his soul had returned to its place. Who are you? Why are you here? The Black Dragon King's dry throat squeezed out a low and hoarse voice. Wang Shuo was very puzzled. After thousands of years, the Black Dragon King was still alive and had not been transformed into an undead. At this moment, something strange happened suddenly, and countless death energy rushed towards the top of the Black Dragon King's head. Ah! The Black Dragon King screamed, and his cold face kept twisting, obviously trying his best to endure. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 210. A drop of sweat squeezed out of his dry face, which must have meant that he was in great pain. It's been 1,000 years. Wang Shuo was shocked. Could it be that the Black Dragon King had been suffering this kind of pain for the past 1,000 years? Blood debts must be paid with blood. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. The Black Dragon King murmured to himself, sometimes in a voice as loud as a mosquito or a mad roar. Wang Shuo felt that the Black Dragon King had gone crazy from being tortured. Young man, hurry up, kill me, the Black Dragon King said hurriedly, with a trace of longing in his eyes. Wang Shuo didn't know what to do for a while. Maybe I can save you, Wang Shuo suddenly felt a trace of compassion. No matter how big the fault was, after enduring 1,000 years of inhuman torture, it should be possible to atone for the sin. and the country that the Black Dragon King built with his own hands has been reduced to ashes. It's useless. The Black Dragon King seemed to have regained a trace of clarity. After he finished speaking, he sighed dejectedly and fell silent again. Wang Shuo did not act rashly and maintained the necessary vigilance. Agi, do you know the past of this Black Dragon King? I'm ashamed to say that I only know that Black Dragon City was destroyed by Queen Anna of the Truni Empire, and I don't know anything else. Useless thing. Wang Shuo looked at the Black Dragon King patiently, fighting against the death. After a long time, when Wang Shuo was a little bored, the Black Dragon King finally had no death above his neck. He looked up at Wang Shuo, his dry face trembling, and slowly said, "Young man, are you interested in listening to my story?" Wang Shuo was so excited that he almost cried. He was really interested. There was no way, in order to complete the task, he had to want to listen. I was originally an Earl of the North Sea Empire, and Black Dragon City was my fiefdom. That year, the old emperor of the empire passed away, and the new emperor was young and unable to control the huge empire. The princes of various places were ready to move, and external forces were eyeing them covetously. The sudden evil cult organization Holy Fire Sect took the opportunity to stir up trouble, but the princes of the empire turned a blind eye. All places used the excuse of suppressing the Holy Fire section. The earth was full of smoke and the empire was in turmoil. Until someone proclaimed himself queen, I also killed the supervisor and proclaimed myself the Black Dragon King. Unexpectedly, this planted the seeds of genocide for myself. Wang Shuo felt mixed emotions when he heard the dusty past told by the Black Dragon King. His words were full of regret, unwillingness, and repentance. Wang Shuo couldn't help but be moved. Listening to the Black Dragon King's story, the side quest is 80% complete. Wang Shuo was shocked. The side quest has not been completed yet? Is there any report that has been forgotten? At this time, the Black Dragon King slowly said, "Young man, kill me, my soul has been tortured for thousands of years, and it has been miserable." However, there was a faint trace of death in his lowered eyes, looming. Wang Shuo sighed and said lightly, "Okay." Hearing Wang Shuo's voice of agreement, the Black Dragon King relaxed as if he had been relieved, but the smile on his dry face was a little weird, a bit like a conspiracy. Wang Shuo didn't think much about it, but just felt that the other party's knowing smile was a bit creepy. Wang Shuo didn't walk over, but stood in place and let Li Jiangguo take out the bronze crossbow cart. After loading the bronze spear, of course, he had to do it himself. Swoosh! The bronze spear pierced the Black Dragon King's head, and it was immediately like a smashed watermelon, breaking into pieces. There was no scene of blood splattering, only withered skull fragments scattered all over the ground. Killed with one strike, which surprised Wang Shuo. "You killed the weak high-level warrior Black Dragon King, ID, Dragon DW000001. Because you killed high-level warriors across levels continuously, you will be rewarded with add 10 for all attributes and add 1000 for reputation. Your level has been raised to level 30. You have obtained the special item Loyal Soul Hall. You have obtained the Inner Strength Mental Method Black Dragon Sutra /. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 211. The rampant voice of the Black Dragon King reverberated over the altar wantonly, making Wang Shuo shudder. Wang Shuo was a little puzzled. Didn't he just hear the system prompt that he had killed the Black Dragon King? What was going on with this unscrupulous voice? The soldiers around him also looked at the sky vigilantly, but there was nothing except the thick death and the ethereal echo. Obviously, this Black Dragon King did not answer his doubts, and even ignored him. After releasing the pent-up energy in his heart for thousands of years, he disappeared into the sky. Wang Shuo felt a little strange. Why was he in a hurry to escape? At this moment, in a palace across tens of thousands of miles, Queen Anna felt something in her heart and was furious. The staff inlaid with a huge gem in her hand was directly crushed by her. The colorful light emanated from her body, changing constantly with her face. Who dared to kill that unforgivable man and rescue his soul? Her angry roar directly knocked the maids around her to the wall, spitting blood. Wang Shuo naturally could not feel Queen Anna's anger. Yeshwar came over and said softly to Wang Shuo, "My copy mission has been completed." Wang Shuo was a little disappointed. He wanted to ask for her to stay, but he didn't know what reason to use. There was a silence for a while. Yeshwar bit her lips lightly, held the thumb with 4 fingers on her left hand and rubbed it gently, and pulled the corner of her clothes with her right hand, as if waiting for Wang Shuo to say something. However, Wang Shuo was like a piece of wood, at a loss. After waiting for a long time, she showed a faint disappointment on her face, and suddenly, she smiled again on her pretty face, and said, "Then, I'm leaving." She slowly took out a scroll, and with a thought, a portal appeared not far away. Yeshwar walked slowly, each step was very slow, but each step was moving away from Wang Shuo. Looking at the back figure going away, all kinds of thoughts came to Wang Shuo's mind. He stretched out his right hand and moved his lips, but he couldn't make a sound. Suddenly, she turned around and saw Wang Shuo's hand stiff in the air, and laughed out loud. Her smile was like a flower. Wang Shuo couldn't help but feel excited. "I'm from the Sky City." After saying that, she turned around, stepped into the portal, and disappeared, as if she had never appeared. Wang Shuo felt lost. After a while, he slapped his forehead and exclaimed, I actually forgot to add a friend." After a while, Wang Shuo felt like a dream. He couldn't help but think of when he was a child. He went to his grandmother's house during the Chinese New Year. A beautiful little girl also came to his grandmother's neighbor's house, with 2 pigtails and a bright red coat. The round little face looks like a red apple. They played snowball fights and made snowmen together, and let the big black dog pull the car made by Grandpa and run around everywhere. They doodled on the snow together, drew the stick drawings taught by the teacher, and wrote their own names. They played house together. These few short days were the most unforgettable fun in Wang Shuo's childhood. So much so that the next year, Wang Shuo prepared a gift for the little girl a few days before going to his grandmother's house. But when he arrived at his grandmother's house, he did not see the little girl in a red cotton jacket and pigtails. Later, every year when he went to his grandmother's house, he wanted to see the girl again, but he never saw her again. Although this past event buried deep in Wang Shuo's heart brought some regrets, it became a beautiful memory in his heart. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 212. After Yeshwar left, Wang Shuo murmured Sky City several times. The system prompt sounded again. After thousands of years of torture, the remnant soul of the Black Dragon King has been completely blackened. Justice died and evil sprouted. The weak remnant soul of the Black Dragon King has escaped. From then on, the dragon returned to the sea and the tiger roared in the mountains. You triggered a large-scale plot. The ancient undead army of Black Dragon City has revived because the remnant soul of the Black Dragon King is so weak. It will take a month to recover its strength and summon the undead army. After a month, darkness will sweep the earth. Wang Shuo was shocked when he saw this prompt. It seemed that he had poked a huge hole. System announcement: a player has triggered a large-scale plot event. The ancient undead army of Black Dragon City has revived. The Black Dragon King will gather all the undead in the ancient battlefield. The ambitious Black Dragon King will lead his undead army to make a comeback and vow to restore their former glory. It was reported 3 times in a row. The red system announcement prompt was forced to recall in everyone's mind. In the Dewey area, in each chat channel, the blood red system announcement was pinned to the top, and each large character seemed to be written in blood, which was shocking. Northeast Tiger, what's the situation? What's the situation? Isn't it good to develop peacefully? You have to play so excitingly. Little Gray, this reminds me of the incident of wild beasts surrounding the village, but the system announcement at that time was not so terrible. Who is it, and do you think our life is not difficult enough? Little Skeleton, don't be afraid, I have seen it in the ancient battlefield, it is completely vulnerable. I am the Lord of Tiankin, Yashida Mundo, everyone should learn from the last lesson, welcome everyone to develop together. I am the secretary of the Tianba Village Youth League, welcome everyone to seek common development, brothers, come together. Zhao Shanhe, Mountain and Sea Alliance. As they chatted, these guys started to advertise. Wang Shuo also wanted to fight, but reality did not allow him to do so. At this moment, a monster suddenly appeared in the altar. The reason why she is called a monster is that although she is in human form, she has 8 spider-like tentacles extending from her back, all in the form of white bones. The dry long hair on her head is messy, and her face looks ferocious. Hidden boss. Wang Shuo checked the attributes and took a breath. Anna's clone, golden boss. Level 40. Attack power, 800. Defense power, 400. Health value, 30,000. Skills, Spider Silk Entanglement, Sharp Bone Spear, Broken Limb Regeneration, Terrifying Howl. Note, Anna Truni, at level 40, split a clone to take care of the Black Dragon King. 3 highs, plus 4 skills. Quite tricky. Compared with Toad Brunei, the defense and health are the same, but the attack power is 98 points less. But Toad Brunei is not a normal golden boss. It can be said that this boss left a huge psychological shadow on Wang Shuo. Did you let the remnant soul of the Black Dragon King go? Anna's clone asked sternly. Wang Shuo frowned and silently retreated behind Gongzheng. There was no way, Wang Shuo couldn't bear it for a few more times. After a series of battles, Gongzheng's level has reached level 28. Wang Shuo looked at Gongzheng's main attributes. Level 28. Strength, 52. Constitution, 240. Agility, 26. Energy, 25. Defense, 230. Command value, 22. Life value, 5,200. Skill, Vajra Sutra, level 2. Skills, 1 block, 2 petrification, 3 damage rebound, 4 life feedback, 5 Taishan pressure. Damage rebound and life feedback are skills attached to the skills. After the skill is activated, you can get 80% damage rebound and 1% life recovery from the injury. It's just that the mental power consumption is relatively large. The petrification skill can increase health by 1000. Prepare for attack, Wang Shuo shouted. The crossbow battalion lined up 10 bronze crossbow carts.